Yeah, we were talking earlier about Adobe crashing. And
Oh God,
How many times?
if you looked in the project file folder, it's probably just like copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of it, because it's just like I never renamed the shit.
The brand that we were working with, Mitsui, they kind of run a bunch of different companies that do different things, but the one that we were focusing on was this tuna farming operation. They already kind of had this operation up and running in Japan, and they were kind of already providing this tuna to restaurants there, but they were bringing it to the US, so that's kind of why they involved Foodbeast.
What did it take to get all that planned? I mean, like, you guys flew to a different country. None of you speak Japanese, I'm assuming. And like
that would have been so helpful.
Yeah.
Did you run into a lot of translation issues?
We had some interesting situations with interviews where it was sometimes tough to get the intent of a question across. And so you have somebody who like speaks Japanese and speaks English and is helping us communicate back and forth with someone who we're interviewing who only speaks Japanese. And you can't help but notice like the answer that you get back doesn't necessarily relate to the question that you put forth. You're just kind of stuck guessing, like trying to read this person without having any context of like what they, like inflection is not helpful when you're listening to someone speak a language that you're completely unfamiliar with. It's like I could read, if you're lying to me, I could read a little bit of it. But if you lie to me in Japanese, I'm fucking lost.
I think the other added layer to that was because they knew that there was going to be a language barrier, we had to submit a lot of questions beforehand, which is cool, and they were able to come up with answers for them, but of course, like, we want to get some organic and like natural conversation too. So I think that when it came to like the questions they were prepared to answer, they had, you know, their canned answers ready to go, but we had to like work on the organic feel of it, and that's kind of where it came into play, like not being able to ask follow-up questions as easily because of the language barrier.
Yeah, in the raw footage too, you see like a lot of passing around this like piece of paper between questions, and like every time there's a question asked or an answer given, it like it kind of, they'll finish talking and they go like, and it's kind of like, and then there's like this moment where the paper has to be passed around again to get to the next thing.
You were interviewing someone in a language that they didn't understand, and they were giving an answer in a language that you didn't understand, and you had to bust out your acting skills and be like, I totally understand it.
It's the nod.
Yeah,
just give the eye contact and the nod. That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Could be saying
the whole time.
I knew
No, but
I knew generally what they were
and
saying because I read the sheet, but I didn't know like the exact words they were saying when they were saying them. But yeah, that was, I feel like the other thing that we wanted them to do is like, we were kind of asking everybody, okay, like how does this affect you personally? We really wanted like a personal testimony to like why they cared about, you know, saving bluefin tuna from extinction, and that was, they weren't really like that. Everything was by the book, and so.
My favorite was the captain though. No, but I feel like the captain really did.
He was good.
He came across and he understood the question and, you know, gave a really, really meaningful answer.
What gear did you guys use to film all of this? I know you said one Sony or two Sonys?
We actually used one Canon and one Sony, so there was
the whole
a
thing
lot
was filmed on two cameras? Well, and the drone.
The drone
and
then the two cameras, but
GoPros,
mostly was,
right, for all the underwater stuff we used GoPro.
Oh, that was GoPros for the underwater.
It was GoPros for underwater, and then also some of the underwater stuff was footage that we received from the farm.
Okay.
So stuff that they had shot, but that footage came in super handy when we needed stuff underwater that like we might not have been able to get that day, right? Because their process is seasonal, so they're not always doing every step of the process.
Because I think you did shoot on underwater stuff with a GoPro.
We did give it to the diver.
Yeah, I don't think I used yours.
Oh, thanks.
I think I was usually using theirs.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
They have more time and to get those types of shots, and it was
There's
cool that they did have like so much of a library, because like they said, there were some things that we weren't really able to see, and like some of the images of like the cells like proliferating, I don't know, whatever you call it.
Just
Because I know that part was like, from like a script standpoint, like essential, but there was no footage for it. So it was definitely like, it was daunting when it was just kind of a chunk of nothing in the timeline for a while.
How did you approach that, actually? Because that's really interesting to think about, like something that's very important to the story, right? And in the script, you can tell like this section has a lot of meaning to it and pushes us through, but
yeah, I mean, early
you
on,
don't have footage.
Yeah, early on in the editing, I think there was less voiceover had been written and recorded early on, so I started to structure around that. But then that one, it was ultimately pretty easy just because the voiceover was written and recorded already, so I just kind of picked stock footage that fit.
I do want to hear just the coloring that he had to do.
Oh, I totally want to hear that.
Right, okay.
I know.
So, all right, we'll talk about gear for a little bit because we talked about, we had a Canon DSLR, we had the Sony, the A7S II, we shot on a GoPro for the underwater stuff. We had the drone, which was, what was the DJI?
I think it was the Mavic.
Was it
DJI,
Mavic?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had the Mavic for the drone. And then that made coloring awesome. Because you have like
nightmare, right?
The Sony A7S II. We were shooting the S-Log II picture profile, and then Canons we were doing just the standard
neutral picture profile.
What did we do for the drone?
I think it was like Cine style.
Okay.
On there, it's also a little muted, so you can, play with the colors a little bit.
Okay.
Right, and then GoPros just whatever GoPros look like.
Yeah.
I thought the Sonys were really helpful when we got into the lab because there were a lot of dark spaces where we needed to be able to expose properly for there, and you get a lot of low light.
Yeah, it was definitely helpful. We didn't use a lot of that stuff though.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I know I shot that stuff too.
See, so it's over 50% Canon footage.
Yeah, we didn't really use
Thanks,
that.
Mike.
The Canon stuff looked great though out of the camera. It's like I think it's the easiest way for you to kind of show something that looks proper.
I feel like editing with the Canon stuff looks best when you're editing, and then the Sony stuff looks best when it's finished.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's just
There was a ton of drone footage in this.
A lot.
And
And they loved it. The client loved it. Like the drone footage was like their favorite. Like we stopped filming for the day. They're like, drone? Can we see the drone footage? They loved it.
Yeah, because they know that's big budget shit. You don't get to do drones apparently in Japan unless you have the budget for it. Because
Or
Or you just don't know about the laws.
unless you're just blissfully ignorant.
So in Japan, there's drone laws. I didn't bother to look these up. Look them up. If you're gonna be flying drones anywhere, look them up.
or don't.
And just do it like I did. But be careful.
were you the drone pilot?
Yeah. So so basically the crew in Japan was just Annalise, Chris, and I, and then we had Brand there and translator. So me and Chris were manning cameras, him with a Sony, me with my Canon. Annalise was producing on the ground, hosting, making sure we make it on time on set and all that stuff. But when it came to the scene in the boat where they're actually harvesting the fish, we're running cameras like nonstop because there's a lot of action happening. They're feeding the fish, they're catching the fish, they're bringing it on board, they're gutting it, they're weighing it, they're putting it in the ice, and then we're taking it back on land to preserve it. But we needed to get some drone footage, and so I was manning a drone and I was manning the DSLR at the same time. And I mean, I got some good footage, did I not? I don't know. You
On the
got
drone?
the As Michael on drone and camera.
Oh yeah.
Little flex there.
Little flex.
Wait, on which one?
Like,
So when did you find out that it was illegal to be flying the drone?
I think it was like the last day in Tokyo before
They
we
got
were
shot
flying out.
down.
No,
I'm
I
just
was
kidding.
like, oh man, it's nighttime. I want to get some shots of the city. Let's bring it up. But then I was kind of a little bit worried because now we're in the city. Because I was flying it a little bit more in south of Japan near the beach and all that. And I looked up the laws with Chris that night. I remember, and I'm like, oh, this is like a process. This is gonna take a while for us to get approved. But so I just decided not to.
Yeah, so we have a lot of drone stuff in the water, and I think there's like one shot of like
looking at the city
of like
from
like Japan the way that I mean I haven't been to Japan,
the
so it's like
processing
Japan the
point.
way that I imagine it because of like TV and stuff.
So what would you guys have done differently? Like, you know, looking back on it, did you get enough footage? Like,
there was plenty.
I think there was plenty of footage.
I think the script
I think
Your
I'll
best
say-
estimate, Mike, how many hours of footage do you think we had?
I don't know. I mean, it was just like you guys were rolling.
how many?
It was. They shot for 4 days, and they were rolling 2 cameras for the majority of when they were doing whatever they were doing. So I don't know. So I think it was around 500 gigabytes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of footage.
Yeah, it's too much. No, yeah, and then there was the actual like Mitsui's footage. It's like, oh great.
Oh, great, more footage.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, what was it, like every other week? I was like, hey, Mike, I'm sending you WeTrans for some more
If you want
footage.
some more, I'm like, I think I'm
I'm like-
okay, but okay.
No, but it came in handy.
No, definitely. I mean, it obviously all gets looked at. I just bitch about everything.
And then he tells me,
you're
that's
an
actually
editor.
pretty good.
I
Like,
just- I'll
thanks for
complain
sending
about-
that over.
Yeah,
Thank you.
hey, that one actually changed everything.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of texts from him. About that. Like, yeah, you know, after that little switch up on the footage, it changes the whole cut, and I really like it now.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'm like,
pretty
well, did you
cool.
not like it before? You're not telling me, like, was it that shitty?
I feel like the hardest thing though was the scripting because it was a lot of unknowns going into the shoot. Like we weren't even sure like how much of the lab we were going to be able to see, how much of the harvesting, like we weren't really sure about like how much of anything we were going to be able to see. So it was really tough for us to like write a script beforehand. We kind of had like a general outline because there were several different locations and we knew which shots we needed to get at each. But when it came to the storytelling, we just like didn't know what we were going to get. So we weren't really able or like didn't really know how to do scripting beforehand. And like there were some like ad lib moments when we were on set where I would just, report as things were happening. And those kind of were like pillars to guide us, or not really guide us, but just like some snippets that we had. And then we just had to figure out how to tell the whole story.
Yeah, my inclination is always to use that stuff before voiceover. Because like maybe you could get it, like, articulate things a little bit better with voiceover after the fact, but then like I think it would have ultimately hurt the video a lot to kind of abandon a lot of that like spontaneous stuff that happened, which is cool.
Did you guys write the script out for the voiceover towards the end of the production when you had a better idea of what the story was going to be?
Well, we wrote it before, and then we rewrote it, and then we rewrote it again, and then Mike put the 8th cut together and was like, I don't think this is working, and
I feel
wrote it
like
again.
It was like a different proverbial question, which comes first, the script or the rough cut? And like we were kind of like deciding what that should be, and we ended up
in the case of this particular video.
Yeah, for this video, and it ended up he kind of put together a story, and then we kind of wrote the script based on the timeline that he put together.
Yeah, because I mean, like going through the footage, it's like pretty obvious that the bulk of the video has to be the fishing, because I feel like that's the most interesting part.
I think it was one of those projects that it really benefited from us getting face to face to talk about it. Like he said,
there's
when
like
he
so
came
much.
to the office.
There really is a lot going on with too few people, I think, is what. Yeah.
You asked earlier what would we do different. We would have more people. We'd have more people. We'd use the same cameras.
Yeah.
One of us would learn Japanese.
I'd have someone flying the drone. While
We would get proper drone clearances, which we did. Yeah, I don't know what else we do.
No, I think those are solid. Yeah, those are.
It's the biggest thing I've ever had to edit, for sure.
I can't wait to open up his project and see how much of a
Classic
organized masterpiece it is.
And the final, whatever the final project file was called, I think I renamed the last one like just Final Mitsui or whatever, like all caps, but it's
You
probably.
did that with the not last one too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
He got
I always
so
get
excited. He was like,
final copy. I think we got to final 7 or 9. I think it was final 9.
Yeah,
After the when you got to final.
We all
You guys
wanted
are
it
cruel,
to be
man.
over.
This is
Yeah. Sometimes I'll
Dave.
just put final in the export to hope it works.
a little subliminal.
Guys,
maybe
we got the
maybe
final.
it'll stick.
This must be it.
Yeah.
This must be it.
Oh, I guess it's done.
It seemed like everything moved really quick. Did you guys miss anything that you were hoping that you could have gotten?
I still wish, I think my least favorite part to work on was the
lab.
tank part
Oh, how they're
In
empty.
the lab.
Because in the actual lab, they filmed at a time where the tanks themselves were
Saw
empty.
that where the guy was standing. In.
Yeah.
So it's like that part was much longer before, but it all just kind of looks like stupid when it's not actually what you're talking about.
Considering the fact that it was empty when you guys had to film it, I felt like it was still compensated very well. You put the guy in the tank, and your voiceover explained it well enough.
Well, that was on the spot too. I'm like,
the
let's
voiceover
discuss
plus the one shot of that
we're
guy.
in, where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
did
perfect
the
example of a section that we were ready to film one way and we had a script for it, and then we got there and they're like, oh yeah, the tanks aren't full because it's not February or whatever. We're like, wait, what do you mean? The tanks aren't full?
I thought you guys are a 24/7 operation here, 365 days.
So yeah, we shoot what we have, and then we all kind of like look at each other and we're like, well, that didn't work. We're gonna have to write something. Like, we're gonna have to tell this story in another way, because it's an important part of the story. You still have to tell that part of the story, and in the same way that like Mike still had to cut that segment, even
And then
knowing
trim
that
it
it's
down
not
to
there.
the bare essential.
And you could always fall back on voiceover, but for me, it's like, let's get everything that we can on camera, on location. And then if there's something that we didn't get to, or we just realized later on in the edit because of the way he's editing it, we can do voiceover. But, and it was just great to even just see Annalise like react and talk on camera, and she did a fantastic job. And
that was the first time you've ever done anything like that, right?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Pretty much. It was a lot and a learning experience for me. Like, just because we do a video about something doesn't mean everyone's just gonna automatically care about it or like be ready to change. And so like my mindset changing from being kind of preachy to being like, hey, like we just really want to get the conversation started, and we hope that like by telling the story and like adding some facts to it, that people understand that it's like a historical thing that has, been a problem for a while that people don't know about, and it's been several years of habit and pattern that have gotten us to this place. And I think that just informing people on how we got here and what it's like was kind of like what ended up being the goal.
What's next? Like what's coming up? Foodbeast Films.
Sustainably farmed yellowfin. Sustainably farmed
imitation
albacore.
crab is next. No, I think we're gonna keep creating stories that we find interesting and that we think people need to know about.
I think Taste the Details is probably the closest thing they've put out consistently.
Yeah, we have a series called Taste the Details that Reach hosts. He's our managing editor. And I think that comes close to just kind of diving in on a dish and with a chef and, learning the nuances of what it takes to make that dish and why that dish is important for the chef, and just continuing to tell awesome stories about food and where it comes from. I think that's a pretty good goal to have as a team here. So.
Right. No, I was going to ask you about your production.
Oh yeah, go for it.
How many episodes of this have you shot?
3/4 of one.
3/4? Okay.
It's the first one.
So we're your pilot?
Yeah, but
So
I
if
think
we
the way
fuck this up, you're cut.
So yes,